everybody. So what I want to explain to everyone is how I started transformation, how I go from looking like that to get my body right. And I'm just trying to make sure that you guys understand the whole process. So starting week 1, what I like to do and what I've been doing for the last like 10 years is detoxing. Before I even start working out. The reason why you want to detox is because, say if you're eating whatever you want, you're eating processed foods, you're going out to eat, you don't really have any type of structured meal plan, what your body does is it accumulates a lot of bloat, inflammation, and just toxins in the body. And all of that can add up to maybe 15, 20 pounds, you never know, of bloat. Also, if you're eating constantly whatever you want, your insulin levels are probably out of control. They're constantly spiking or they're constantly staying up to a point where your body's constantly retaining fat instead of actually burning fat. So the point of the detox is to make sure that we reset the metabolism, making sure we can maintain our insulin levels, keep our insulin levels down, just to reset the entire metabolism. So first thing what I do is the certain supplies that I get is a good detox. It doesn't matter which one you get, just a good like colon cleanse detox. I use the cleaner 7 days. You can get it at GNC, you can get it at Vitamin Shop, but that's what works best for me, especially because it gives you seven days worth of pills. You start it the night before you're gonna start the detox, and you just take 4 pills in the morning, 4 pills at night for that 7-day period. So that's what I have, the cleaner, and then also a good multivitamin. I take Performance and Vitality. That's just for overall health and well-being. I take that Vitapack. It's at GNC as well, but you can take whatever multivitamin you want. And then also just a good electrolyte or fasting formula, because one thing I like to do in the detox is implement the fasting. So just like when I was talking about the insulin levels and it constantly being high, and your insulin levels over a long period of time, if they're constantly high, you got to figure out a way to regulate that and bring it down. And one of the key ways to bring the insulin levels down is fasting. So during the first 7 days, you're not really working out or anything like that, but we're gonna implement not only the detox, but then also fasting as well. So like I said, the 3 things you need, just a good detox colon cleanser, multivitamin, and a fasting formula. Next, let's get into the foods. So the foods that I usually eat is I cut out all processed carbs, mostly all carbs in general. The reason why I cut out the carbs is just because it spikes the insulin. What we're trying to do is we're trying to reset your metabolism. So cut out all the carbs. What you can do, you can have either 3 or 4 meals. I mean 2 or 3 meals. So what I usually do is if you have 2 meals, the protein source, it could be lean steak, chicken, fish, ground beef, whatever you choose. But that source needs to be 7.5 ounces each meal. So if you're having 2 meals, make sure that both of them are 7.5 ounces, just so you have 15 ounces of protein for whole foods. And then if you're only having 2 meals, you can have 1 shake in between. That shake, it'll be like 2 scoops of whatever type of protein. I usually prefer vegan proteins, whatever type of protein that you want. So that's just with the proteins. And then with the fats, what you're gonna wanna have is an ounce of fat with each meal. So with that 7.5 ounces of protein, you're gonna wanna have 1 ounce of fat. And that needs to be a healthy fat, whether it's avocado, whether it's nuts, olive oil, whatever the case may be. So you wanna make sure with that first meal, that first real food meal and that second real food meal, that you have an ounce of avocado or an ounce of nuts or whatever the case may be, just some sort of healthy fat. With the carbohydrates, we're not having anything. We're not having the quinoa or the sweet potato, none of that stuff. So with the carbohydrates, you just want to have leafy greens. And most of those leafy greens, from spinach, all those different types of leafy greens, they can help with the detoxification process. But say if you don't like doing shakes or anything like that, you can have 3 whole meals and just add another meal where you have 7.5 ounces of protein, 1 ounce of fat, and then just leafy greens. Leafy greens can be as much as possible. But that's kind of how you structure it. With me, I like to just do 2 meals and a shake. And what I'll do is I'll just have, like on my first meal, it'll be like protein and then just leafy greens. With my shake, I'll have just the proteins, and then I'll have 3 ounces of fat. So I'm just using all of the fat from each one of my meals into one shake. And I'll put some leafy greens in there. So it'll just be 3 meals for me. But you can do it however you want to do it. Say if I'm eating in an 8-hour window, I need to have a little bit more meals frequently. you can have one meal, then you can have just one scoop of a protein, and then you can have another whole meal, and then you can have another scoop of a protein. So you have 4 meals, and you're just spreading it out, just so every 2 hours you're not feeling too hungry or too lightheaded, because you do kind of feel lightheaded just as your body's getting adjusted, especially if your body's used to burning glucose, burning sugar. You are going to have some type of withdrawals. So it just is what it is. Like, so just be prepared for that. It's normal. That's why you get the fasting formula, just so you can get some of that sodium and then those electrolytes. Because especially in that, when you're reducing the carbs, your body's going to be peeing out a lot of like the inflammation and toxins and different things like that. So you're going to be frequently urinating. So if you're doing that, you got to make sure you replace all that sodium, which is why the fasting formula is for. So that's how I structure it. And then once you get like the meals down, then the next thing is this fasting. So you got to figure out what works best for you. If you're a beginner, sometimes 16-8, like, so you're fasting for 16 hours and then eating within an 8-hour window, that might be too much. You can start with a 14-10. So fasting for 14 hours, including your sleep, fasting for 14 hours and then eating in a 10-hour window. But with me, I like to stick with the 16-8 because it gives, especially after you're eating, that 16-hour window, it gives your body enough time to reduce insulin levels, so you can start burning fat. And then also in this week, you want to just make sure that you're documenting everything on MyFitnessPal, just so you can kind of get used to it. You want to make sure that you get used to the amount that you're eating, seeing, hey, is this the right portion size? Am I overeating, undereating? Because the point of this diet, it isn't to like starve yourself or anything like that, but what we eventually want to do is just replace your carbohydrates intake with your healthy fat intake. So we're not eliminating carbohydrates, because there's going to be a strategic way when you use it, but carbohydrates, especially the processed ones, is the cause of a lot of like the inflammation and a lot of health issues. Especially the way that they do that, because they have all these like different ingredients that are banned in other states, banned in other countries, and we're consuming it, and then we're getting big, just like me, I was getting big. So that's the thing, is you want to just kind of eliminate all of those carbohydrates and then just replace that with healthy fat. You're still getting the same calorie mark, but you're just replacing it with healthy fat. And the reason why you want to do that, because you want to make sure that your body's primary fuel source is fat, and not glucose. The quicker your body is able to adjust to that and start utilizing fat and burn fat, the quicker you'll see that your body fat ratio starts to slim down. But yeah, like I said, the first week is just a detox, and the reason for the detox is just to cleanse the body of all inflammation, all the excess inflammation, all the excess bloat, and then all the toxins. You don't want to work out, because when you work out, each and every time you tear the muscle or you're ripping the muscle when you're working out, you're creating inflammation, and we want to get rid of all of that. A lot of times, I used to do this, but what I see is what people will do is they will just automatically start working out, but they have a whole bunch of bloat, a whole bunch of inflammation. When you start doing that, like, yeah, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you lose weight, but you're just losing the bloat. You're losing the bloat, and then at 4 weeks, you have a stalemate because you're not losing weight anymore. Your body was just getting rid of all that bloat, and then by the time you reach 6 weeks, you already stopped. Like, I've been through that a lot of times. So the point of this week is just making sure that we get rid of all that inflammation, so now we can start at our body's true set weight, and then now we can set our MyFitnessPal to our body's true set weight, and then work on making a change.